find a problem and solve it. Go through your day, find something that's annoying and fix it. And that's really what we did. I started this company with 3 other women, my sister and 2 of our friends from college. And we were in that space of having young kids and losing stuff and being like, there's got to be something out there that's better than permanent marker or masking tape to label our kids' belongings. And there wasn't. So, we were like, let's create something that's dishwasher, microwave safe, that's super durable, very cute, highly personalized, so that parents who invest so much money in their kids' belongings don't get frustrated with it getting lost, ending up in the lost and found, getting mixed up with the friends at daycare and that sort of thing.
Welcome to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Lyon Creatives. I'm Svenja Lyon, and in each episode, I sit down with local business owners and entrepreneurs to share their stories, how they got started, what keeps them going, and what makes their business stand out. My goal? To help more amazing businesses be seen, supported, and celebrated. So grab your coffee, because this might just get creative. Today, I'm joined by Julie Cole, co-founder of Mabel's Labels, the company that evolved from a basement startup into a multi-million-dollar brand serving families worldwide. Julie is also the author of Like a Mother, Birthing Business, Babies, and the Life Beyond Labels. An award-winning speaker and a media contributor who has spent years growing not just a business, but also a visible founder presence. As a brand strategist myself, I'm excited to explore personal branding through the lens of a founder who has lived through every stage, from startup storytelling to scaling a nationally recognized brand. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Svenja. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. To start things off, so for anyone who isn't familiar with Mabel's Labels, can you give us a quick overview of how it started and what it is and what problem you're solving?
Right. Okay. Well, and I mean, that's exactly the point, Svenja. People always say, how do I come up with a good idea? And I'm like, find a problem and solve it. Go through your day, find something that's annoying and fix it. And that's really what we did. I started this company with 3 other women, my sister and 2 of our friends from college. And we were in that space of having young kids and losing stuff and being like, there's got to be something out there that's better than permanent marker or masking tape to label our kids' belongings. And there wasn't. So, we were like, let's create something that's dishwasher, microwave safe, that's super durable, very cute, highly personalized, so that parents who invest so much money in their kids' belongings don't get frustrated with it getting lost, ending up in the lost and found, getting mixed up with the friends at daycare and that sort of thing. So that was reason number 1. And then the second reason was, we were all working proper grown-up jobs and having kids and that sort of thing. And my eldest child at the time, I have 6 kids, and the eldest child at the time had just turned 3 and was diagnosed with autism. And at that point, I felt that the traditional workforce probably wouldn't suit my life so much because I wanted to have some flexibility. And so, sat down with the girls and we're like, okay, well, we've had this idea for our company. Let's do it. Let's just throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. And it literally stuck. So it sticks to your belongings, and the idea stuck, and the parents understood it, and the market loved it. And that was 22 years ago. Wow. In my sister's basement. And we have since, grown to be an award-winning company. We're international. We're a loved family brand.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I can totally relate, because my kids lose everything all the time. And you remember those, I don't know if you remember, but in Germany, we had these sew-in labels that
nobody's got time for that.
But all my things were they had these little labels in there. Yeah.
And you know what? There were these opportunities sort of for clothing labels that were maybe sew-in and that sort of thing. But it was really what was missing was the thing that could go through the dishwasher and the microwave. So we were finding the baby bottles, things that went in the sterilizer. We wanted to make sure this stuff stuck. So that's what we started with. Our original label was that dishwasher microwave safe label that would, go on lunch boxes, snacks containers and wipes containers and bottles and sippy cups and all that sort of thing. And then, of course, 22 years later, we've got, our clothing labels alone, we've got, a peel and stick that goes right on the clothing. We've got a peel and stick that goes on the tag, the tag mates. We've got a stamp. We do have an iron on. But so, so much innovation and evolution over the years in our company, which has been super fun as well.
Yes. When I look at when I look at your brand, and I mean, I'm a designer, so I love beautiful labels, but your website, your logo, it looks beautiful. It looks fun, you know, it looks beautiful. It looks really nice.
And you know
So
what,
good
like, I
job.
think, you know, like from a brand perspective, seeing as, you know, the work that you're involved in, I think one of the things that we did well from the start was, and I tell people this, like, get that brand right from the start. Like, if you start with something that you don't love and it's not consistent, you know, you're going to have to go back and redo it. You're going to be not sending out the right message. So if you can from the start, and I mean like brand as in, you know, your color palette, as an acceptable logo, and, you know, have a real brand designer's eye behind it. And then what is your brand message, and make it consistent, like amongst your socials, amongst you're on your website, up with your founder, you know, and making sure if you do that branding right from the start, it's going to save you a lot of grief later.
Exactly. And not just grief, also money, because then you don't have to go through the rebranding process, you know, and to make it right.
And you build, I mean, and also, I mean, by building a, you know, we were fiercely protective of our brand always. That's how you build loyalty and great customers. Yes. And again, that makes you money.
Yes. No, you need the right messaging. You need the right, the vibe, you know, how do you want your clients to feel when they purchase your product?
You know, none of this is done by accident. And you know this, all of this has to be done so deliberately and bringing, you know, in that professional eye and that voice and all of that. It's a lot of work to create a really strong brand, and it's worth the investment.
Yes. And it could also go a different way. When I looked at your website, I was like, wow, this is so cool. This, you know, it created a feeling for me.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, I might purchase some things, you know?
Good. That's what it's supposed to tell you to do.
But also, like, it could go a different way. Like, if your branding wouldn't be there, I would maybe look at it and I'm like, oh, cool, you know?
Right.
Okay. You know?
Yeah, take it or leave it, right?
I can just I can just put a sticker on and write it on it, you know? But by telling the story through the branding that you created, I'm like, oh yeah, I want that. Yes.
Well, and I think, you know, of course, like the secret sauce being that our product does what it says it's going to do. Like, it is an incredible product. Like, you know, that's very important. And that also helps build trust. But also, like, specifically, I think, Svenja, when your market is moms, you know, moms definitely, we know this from research and how moms make their purchasing decisions and that sort of thing, that they want to feel connections to the brand, right? So, you know, when you went to that website and you're like, oh, I feel connected to the stories here. This makes me, you know, want to be organized. This makes me want to support this brand. This makes me want to be a part of their story and feel connection. That for moms is very important. We don't want to buy from nameless, faceless brands. We love brands that our friends recommend. It's not, oh, well, she told two friends and she told two friends, right? Which is why, you know, in those early days, you know, it was the bloggers, the mom bloggers, and now, you know, who are the OG influencers, really, because people trust what, you know, people who are like them tell them to buy.
Absolutely. Building on this, so in your book, you talk about navigating business while raising 6 children. 6. Yes, that's a lot of children.
It's a bit ridiculous.
But
really fun, I gotta say.
Yes. But how did those, like, personal realities influence the leadership and also the evolution of the company?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, it's a great question, because Mabel's Labels really came to be as a result of, you know, our momming and noticing, like I said, this product missing from the market. And I think, you know, in those early days, I was one of those OG mom bloggers. And I was, you know, I've been to, you know, the Mom 2.0 content creation conference. This would be like my 18th one. I was in the space from the start because of this whole wanting to feel connected and being sort of the brand face. And that's why I was one of those early bloggers. And I wasn't blogging about labels. I was blogging about trying to get through the day without smelling like baby vomit, just like our customers were, right? So, you know, being that relatable voice, and, you know, people often said when I read your blog, I feel seen, I feel less alone. I feel like I'm sitting having a cup of tea with you at your kitchen table. So, and that's what it was. It was about building connection. So I think, having that with our customer base and that bringing that sort of loyalty and then creating communities, right? Like as soon as social media hit, we were on it because then what happened was, because keep in mind, Svenja, like 22 years ago, there was no social media. Like there was barely e-commerce, right? So
Yeah.
So once social media hit, we were early adopters because it brought word of mom online.
Yes.
Like the mom bloggers were owning the space, moms were owning the Facebook space, all of that. So it gave, people another chance and opportunity and venue to talk about products they love, which was Mabel's labels. So I think for us, like just being like that, being in that space and making sure we're connecting to our customers and remembering that, for us, we're always thinking about how are we making parents' lives easier, right? It's not just through labels. It's like the content we share. It's the partnerships we do. Everything we do, we're led by our core values, and, those really resonate with our moms, and they show up, right? They show up in all the little decisions you make, the people you decide to partner with and collaborate with, the kind of products you roll out, how transparent you are, how, visible you are. And I do think, from a branding perspective, CEOs and founders need to be visible. And I know a lot are saying, well, I'm kind of uncomfortable with it. And it's like, okay, well, you can have goals around it because like maybe you are comfortable with it, but I don't think there's a choice in the matter. Like maybe start toe dipping and saying, I'll ask to be on some of these podcasts, or I'll write a blog post, or I'll start a Substack, start somewhere, or I'll start showing some thought leadership on LinkedIn. Like maybe you don't want to go on national TV, or maybe you don't want to, walk in front of a stage of 2,000 people. But there are ways to be visible. You can find the ways you're comfortable with, and then you can also do things that make you uncomfortable. Because if you are a CEO or a founder, all the growth happens in the places where you're uncomfortable. So that becomes like just part of life, right? So, I think that visibility is a big part of it. And I think, through our, intuition in those early days, we knew that staying connected to moms not only was good for business, but it was a heck of a lot of fun.
Yes. So just zoning in on this a little bit. Because when you mentioned that when you started Facebook and Instagram and all that was in the beginning stages, and how it evolved, like I think you hit a perfect time to really go, because now, back then there was not a lot of competition. It grew, but at the beginning stages, But now, if you now want to stand out in social media, you have to do the uncomfortable things. You have to be even more visible,
Exactly, because really. People are looking for differentiators, right? And this is another thing I think founders get wrong is they're like, nobody wants to hear my story. Nobody cares about what I do. Yes. And it's like, you'd be surprised. People do. Like, people loved hearing about these 4 moms in the basement with kids hanging off them trying to, launch this label business. They do want to hear stories. They did want to hear about, when I blogged about, I had, 5 kids vomiting at once. And I had Mabel's labels on all their puke buckets. Like, that that's the content they came for, right? So they do want to know your stories, and that's why it's important to share it. And that is what's going to separate you from your competitors and differentiate you in the marketplace is your story.
Yes, and that's exactly why I started this podcast. The podcast was a big thing that I was so scared about for a long time for no reason. Yes, so. I'm like, so how, because I was like you just mentioned, I was like, who wants to hear my story? Who wants to me, why would anybody be interested? But what founders and owners might not realize is that there are people that are interested in your story.
They're customers,
out there. There's so many people
who want to collaborate with you, and they do want to hear your story. And people also have this like old fashioned view of like, those early days of social media, they're like, well, why would somebody want to see what I have for lunch? And I'm like, I'm not posting what I have for lunch. Like, but maybe I will. You never know. So, it's not just that. You have to think outside the box. And I really do think in the next year and already, I think we're seeing that shift. And I've been reading about how, this founder-led PR strategy, and like we've always done that, like a founder-led PR strategy. We've always intertwined me into the turning up and the showing up and the storytelling and that sort of thing. But I think we're seeing it more and more, and we're seeing that, CEOs and founders are the new influencers, I was just reading a study about morning show producers, and they want They want me to come in and talk about Mabel's labels rather than, okay, maybe they would listen to Taylor Swift. But as a star, like rather than getting like hiring a star or to be your spokesperson, they want to hear from the person who started it. 82% of morning producers prefer it. Study was done, So,
but
yeah, you've got to step out of that comfort zone and do it. Totally does. It totally does. So you know what? If you're uncomfortable with that stuff, that's fine. Get some media training. Take a little speaker's course, whatever you need to do. Talk to people. Follow people who are doing the kinds of things that you're doing and be like, oh, I kind of want to do what Julie does. What podcast has she been on? Maybe I'll reach out to Svenja and ask to be on our podcast.
Yes.
Those are the things you do. It's okay to creep and stalk people a little bit to get some ideas.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And just to... And people are interested in those stories.
Yes.
We all know, I like Taylor Swift. But she, it's normal now that all the stars talk about things, but it's more interesting if you hear a personal story. So
it totally is. I mean, you can even see that in things like reality TV or documentary style stuff. Like people want to see average people. And you think about that, like people who are just like, I've got some friends who were really big influence in the parent content creation space. And, they started in COVID doing a couple of videos every day so they wouldn't be bored. And now, this is lifestyle changing stuff. And you know what they are? They're regular moms who were bored in COVID. So they're not like gorgeous superstar, like they were teachers or they were whatevers, like they were like us. And that's what people want to see. And that's what people feel connection to.
Yes. So you mentioned that in the early stages, you utilized social media and Facebook and these things. Was there, and I'm assuming that you adopted your branding early on as well, or did you go through processes you learned from, that you would maybe say now that you would have done it differently if you would have known?
Well, look, I'm going to say, I think we did a good job from the start as a startup with no money. And, we'd be like, okay, do we have a talented friend who can draw some pictures for our, these are the things you do. You have to be really scrappy, and we bootstrapped. So, we were like, okay, who do we know who can? That was basically how, but we did say, okay, guys, what's our color palette? What do we want? What's our message? What do we, what's behind it all? So we had a basic start. And then, as we evolved, we're like, okay, so now, maybe our branding should be a little more refined, or maybe we should be a little bit more like, we're not going to use that logo because it sends a message and society's evolving. So maybe we need to evolve. So you do. And I think, Svenja, it's okay. Like your brand is going to evolve and change over 22 years.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
And it should. And we want it to. And and even your personal brand, like I think from my perspective, like, I have 5 kids at college now, right? Like I only have 1 kid left in high school. I'm not having the diaper blowouts. I'm not pushing a triple stroller around. And I'm not going to pretend that I am, because the mamas can sniff out a fake. So I think with your brand, whether it's your personal brand, your professional brand, whatever, just be transparent, now I can talk about like from a seasoned parent perspective or, that sort of thing. I'm not going to pretend that I'm still changing diapers when I'm not, because that's just kind of gross. So, I think, again, like as your brand evolves and changes and your personal brand does as well, just be transparent about it and open about it and show the evolution. Like we'll do sometimes like, oh, where our Mabel logo started, where was it 10 years?
That's
where
so
was it
cool.
20 years?
Yes.
And people love it. And then you get also like all those loyal people are like, oh, I bought it when you used to have that logo. We'll be like, oh my gosh, we look at that logo now and it makes us cringe, or, so that's normal stuff. But I think we did in that startup phase understand, we had the understanding that branding was very important.
Yes. I absolutely agree. Yeah. And it is an investment. It's if you, you can go on Fiverr and pay $5 for it, but then you get what you pay for.
Exactly. And I mean, the first thing I think we did when we were like, okay, this is a legit biz, we're selling shit here, like it's happening, was we hired we did a lot of research, and we hired a couple of brand consultants who cost us a lot of money and did a bang up job.
Exactly. Because that sets the foundation. You should invest in that one very important thing.
Well, and it's like this. I think of it like, I remember when I was selling a house and I had like 6 babies and I was just like, I can't try and sell this house. We cannot do it when I've got all these babies because I cannot like get the call and say we're bringing somebody through. And I'm like, I can't live like that. So we did the like buy the new house, move everybody in, and then, okay, let's deal with that house and sell it.
Yeah.
So, somebody came in and I spent like, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000 to get it staged. So it was like beautiful furniture. It looked like we never even lived there. My mom went through and she's like, what? This isn't even, but that $10,000 probably made me $150,000.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
You have to invest in things. And when you do, it makes you money.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. And it
that's why
sets
it's
you
an
up
investment.
and it sets you up for a future where you can build on, and the evolvement can happen.
That's right. And the like if you start from a good spot, then the other stuff, it's just, it's never going to be that big again, right? Like you
Exactly.
can just,
Evolve. Yes.
Yes, from that point. Yep, exactly.
So shifting from social media and, the times back then to today, and, AI and all these tools that are here for us to use, copywriting, putting stuff out there, writing blogs, all these things, that's where AI is heavily involved in. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about AI?
So, okay. I mean, obviously it's a big topic. I think AI is, a good tool for certain things. Mm-hmm. I think people are starting to figure out when something's written. I actually had a friend do a post on LinkedIn and I'm like, I quickly text her and I'm like, dude, you cut and paste and you put at the bottom, would you like me to say this in a more friendly, approachable way? She's like, oh my God. I'm like, dude, really? She's like, thanks, man. I was like, I got you. But, those sorts of things are happening, or like the M dashes. There are little things that, and it's funny too, because when it started, I remember feeling a little personally resentful because I'm a good writer. Yeah. And I've been that guy who I can write a great speech. If somebody dies, they're like, get Julie to do the eulogy. Oh, get Julie to MC your wedding. And everybody would be like, Julie, can you proofread this for me? Julie would look at my CV and it was always like, can you wordsmith this for me? And I'm like, no, everybody's like me. I used to have that good talent that nobody else had. But you know what? I don't think that's accurate. I think there's a difference. And I think people are starting to see it. I know we have a full-time copywriter at Mabel's Labels and they're not going anywhere. And they write our blog posts and, that is not going anywhere. And I think, especially like I said, with the mamas sniffing out fake, they want to feel connection to real humans. And I think that's another reason why these founders and CEOs and leaders have to be more visible, because in these times of AI, there is going to be a disconnect in trust and loyalty. And I always say visibility creates credibility, which creates loyalty, which creates sales. So not only is it good and fun and for all the reasons, but it is good for business as well. So look, it's a great tool when used properly and not overdone. It's a funny territory right now.
Yes.
Sure.
What I love it for is that because I'm not a writer, I'm and I also I was born in Germany. I'm German, so English is my second language.
Yeah.
So when I write my blogs, I like that I can put it in ChatGPT and it proofread it for me. Because
100%.
sometimes
it saves. It's a huge time saver. 100%. It's a huge time saver. Even if you're like, oh, I got to do this. To me, I feel like for myself personally, if it's going to help me save time, but it's something I would write, then I'm okay with it. That's kind of my ethics check or whatever on it. If it's something that would come from me and it's me, but it's going to save some time. And I think that's, there are some great tools out there and we can't ignore it. I mean, it's here and there's going to be ways it's going to help companies with, customer service or there's going to be lots of ways and tools to use. So don't put your head in the sand. I mean, you've got to, it's here. I keep telling my kids if they're all at university, college, I'm like, just guys, can you actually just all become a trade so you can't get replaced? But I want you to be a plumber, you be an electrician, because I don't want AI stealing your jobs.
But that's exactly what we talked to our daughter about, because she wants to do forensics. Yeah. And we're like, oh, okay, no, that can be something that cannot be replaced.
I know. I think these are But then that's the thing too. I mean, there's so many jobs when my kids are like, what am I going to be when I grow up? I'm like, dude, like, don't even worry about it. I was a lawyer and now I'm a label maker. Like, nobody knows where they're going to end up, right?
Yes,
so just
yes.
do what you love and figure it out and whatever.
Yeah. What visibility channels do you feel most aligned to?
Okay. So, and this changes too with brands, right? I think, so for me, some of the things that I focus on, as like with my founder-led PR strategy, which is only one part of our PR strategy, right? So what I'll do is I go to conferences. I speak at conferences. Sometimes I'll speak at baby shows if we're having a booth there or something like that. So I'm getting in front of parents. I'm getting in front of people who are in this space. So whether that's like at a Prego Expo or a baby show or that sort of thing, but also in front of mom content creators. So like the Mom 2.0 conference or BlogCon, where people who are creating content in this space who we might want to collaborate with and have influencers. So I'm turning up at places like that. I'm turning up on social media. I really am a big fan of LinkedIn these days. Big fan. It'll be interesting to see how that shifts in the next year too. But, you know, a great place for thought leadership, a great spot for, you know, founders and CEOs to talk about their ideas and their experiences and share, you know, because the topic of leadership is so important and evolving. I also turn up on lives and podcasts. I do media, a lot of media. And what I do is like I've been positioned sort of as like a parenting expert, right? So, and I think that's an important thing too. So if you're a founder, like how can you position yourself as an expert? So for me with, you know, all these kids and Mabel's labels, I might do a segment for, you know, back to school, how to stay organized for back to school. And I'll talk about my systems that I have in place, about having a peaceful morning, getting everybody out the door, some of my visuals I use, and then, you know, some of my favorite products, some of my favorite, you know, maybe a lunchbox that's easy for little kindergarten fingers to open. And then, of course, there's Mabel's labels on it. And then I'll be like, and you don't want to lose the stuff. So I weave it in, but I don't make it salesy. So if you can do that, and like that can be anything. You could be like, say you own a pool shop, you know, or a pool company or something like that. You could be like, okay, I'm going to be an expert on pool safety. And, you know, when it's pool safety week, or if there's like a day, or, you know, we're coming up to summer, you start pitching or start writing about 5 home tips to keep your backyard pool safe. You know, you talk about logs, you talk about statistics, you talk about studies, and then you come and you provide value. And that's the thing. You've got to provide value. And that's what you've got to do in everything you're doing, right? Like, so sometimes like when you're creating content or you're going to be somewhere and there's going to be different purposes, it might be like, okay, do I want this to lead to a sale? For me, mostly not. What I want them to do maybe, or what we want to do in our social media, is get them over to our website. And then it's the website's team, our team, they need then to do the conversion. So it's a big effort by everyone. So sometimes you're doing social media to, you know, send them to your website to let them know about a sale. Sometimes you're just entertaining them. Sometimes you're providing value. Sometimes you're hopping on a trend. Again, that falls in the entertainment. So you want to know what your purpose is in everything you're creating so that you're using your time wisely. So yeah, for me, mostly it's getting out there, speaking, conferencing, being on podcasts. I host LinkedIn Lives. I host Instagram Lives, which gives me the opportunity to bring people in to my platform, right? And then they'll share on their platform. So collaborations are the way to go, 100% in everything you do.
Yeah.
But
building community,
but also making sure that you're just aligning with brands that are a fit. If you align with a brand that's not a fit with your brand, you're going to bring your brand value down, and then you're going to lose opportunities to work with brands that do fit with you. So be very fierce about that as well.
Yes. No, absolutely. But
can I jump in again? I had one more thing to say.
Yes.
I wanted to say also, because I think also you have to, you know, because you said, where do you turn up? Where's visibility? And that needs to evolve based on where your customers are too.
Yes.
So like my original customers were all on Facebook. So within a minute, we had like 200,000 Facebook fans, Then, you know, that evolves. So who's on Facebook now? Everybody who's my age. What am I? I'm like 50. You know, my kids are in. So where are the moms now? Where's my market? They're on Instagram. So guess where we are now more? Instagram and TikTok. So you need to turn up. And like, am I on Instagram showing how to change a diaper? No, I've got a young gal in marketing who might do that, but we might do something funny where I'm like, oh, that's evolved. We never had diapers like that. so we can have some fun with it.
Yes.
But go make sure you're visible where your customers are. Otherwise, nobody's seeing you.
Yes. Again,
Right?
tell your story, share your vision.
And it evolves when you turn up.
Exactly. Have a community. Be out there. Talk to people. And people need to know you. Like when you think about how it was like before internet even. You went to the store. You had personal connections in the store. You met people on the street, And now your customer base is so much bigger, or your audience can be so much bigger. And you
especially
need to be
for
there.
E-commerce, and especially for an e-commerce
definitely,
brand.
yes.
Like if you just have, because I tell friends who have like, say, a baby store, like one baby store, then I'm like, you don't need to worry about getting in front of people all over the world unless you're selling, online or whatever.
Yes.
But if you like, say, have a floors or whatever, or a dance studio, and like you're only going to get local people, then you need to consider that in your marketing plan. You don't need to come up with strategies about engaging, with potential customers who aren't going to come to your dance studio or your hairdressers or whatever. Yes. However, if you do create content that does go viral and people see it, then everybody in your community could be like, oh my God, I got to check this out. This has gone. So there's nothing wrong with it, but your strategy is going to be different.
Yeah, no,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we ran a race in New York City the other day, and we wanted to get Starbucks, and we walked past the bagel shop, and that bagel shop, there was a line. Oh my God, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not standing in this line. But there was a TikTok about the, what's it called? The rainbow bagel that was invented at that bagel shop.
Right.
And I wanted to know what it was, because I'm not that much on
you're
TikTok.
Like, what's the hype?
Why do I have
What's
to
the
eat this
hype?
bagel
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
And then the people said, well, it's a good bagel, but it tastes like a bagel. But there were like lines out the door. And
But
that's just because,
it's so interesting you say that, though. But this goes to show you word of mouth, too, because I lived in New York in the 90s for a couple of years when I went to grad school at NYU. And there's this bagel shop called Essa Bagel, which is Yiddish, I think, for eat a bagel or something. Anyway, every Saturday morning, line up around the corner.
Yeah.
And that was before social media. But people talk about what they like and what they don't like. Yeah. And in the early days of Mabel's Labels, that word of mouth was like, people were hearing about Mabel's Labels at the daycare drop-off. Like, see a kid at soccer with like a, and be like, what is that label? What, is that your kid's name? I need that. Yeah. So that was like the moms talking about it. Then it evolved once social media hit. But even back in those there was that lineup at Essa Bagel in 1996, because people talked about it. And then what happens is the brand's got to deliver. So those lineups are going to continue then, because honestly, those Essa Bagels were killer good, right?
I mean, if you walk on the street and you smell like freshly baked bagels and so good. Yeah. And if the whole vibe inside also matches the whole, then perfect.
And if you, and then, you have your bagel guy, like you love your bagel guy. It's like, we all get connected with our people, right? And you're like, well, I go there because then I have a special, grocery store. Because I like my gal who serves me at the grocery store. Like those human connections are so important. And that's part of your brand. And I always say every connection you have, whether, every Instagram post, every speaking engagement, everything you like, that is either contributing to your brand or taking away from it. And so you're all, and you know what? One time, Svenja, I've got an interesting funny story. I once almost really blew it. I was at the airport and I was getting so dicked around. Like my flight got it was awful. It was awful. I was losing my mind. Yeah. And I'm not the most patient person, believe it or not, with these 6 kids. But I when things aren't done efficiently, like I'm direct, I got to get a lot done. I'm highly productive, so when other people aren't that way, it's like, I don't get right. So I was really frustrated and I went up to the customer service and I was like, hey, I'm having a hard time here. Can you help me with this? And she was like, yeah, no problem. She's like, give me your email. And I was like, okay, it's julie.cole@mabelslabels.com. She's like, oh my God, Mabel's Labels. I love Mabel's Labels. I have so many. And I almost had gone up and been like, what the F is going on with this airline? And I'm like, I was so glad I didn't, right? Because she'd been like, that banner's up. and I wasn't. And I was like, it was a good reminder to me that you never know who's beside you. You never who. And if you're repping your brand, you better turn up and, rep your brand in a way you want to be seen.
Yes. And be the same person that you portray on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on your website.
Being consistent and being yourself is like, it's really the only way, because you can't maintain, if you're not yourself, you can't maintain it. You just can't.
Yes.
And I remember years ago, somebody started sort of imitating the way I blog. They kind of used my phrases, and they kind of were trying to sound like me. And people were reaching out and being like, have you noticed this? And I'm like, they'll find their voice. I'm not worried. Yeah. You can't. It won't. It's not sustainable.
No, it's not, because you can't be someone you're not. So,
exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, anyway, so very, very nice conversation. Very good information that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do love this topic, and I love what you do, because obviously, in this blog is all about, because I keep yapping, or this podcast, because I just do think this kind of work is so important for companies and founders, and they really can't. It's something they can slack off.
Yes. And this is also part of why I started this podcast, is because what I do is branding. So I make sure that brands show up, and that brands are seen. And so through this podcast, I give all the brands the opportunity to be seen,
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
So, yes. So, your book. Let's quickly talk about your book. That's awesome.
Right. Okay. So the book, the book came out, I guess it's been 3 years now. It was kind of my COVID project. Like I always had like, okay, I've got to write a book, because I wanted to share my story. I wanted to, if I can make another entrepreneur's life easier, or mom's life easier. So the book is full of like life hacks, business hacks, mom hacks, all that jazz. And I had a lot of content in my head and from blogs and that sort of thing. And it was a matter of just pulling it all together. And as you know, like during that time when COVID was happening, like I wasn't traveling, I wasn't speaking at conferences. And I was like, if I don't get this done, like all my kids were around, we're all at our little desks doing stuff. I'm like, I better get this book done. If I don't get it now, like whenever will I get the opportunity again? So it felt like a little bit of a gift of time.
Yeah.
And I think, it was great, and it's done well, and it's a fun read. It's a good read. And it's got some value there. And I do think from a founder perspective as well, one of the reasons it was on the to-do list, other than the fact that I wanted to share what I've learned, is that kind of a book is the modern day business card, right? And it does build some credibility. And there are things, now people will be like, can I book you to speak? And we'll buy a copy of your book for everyone in the audience. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So, there's some value around that from a visibility and storytelling perspective, from a brand perspective as well. So, it was also like Mabel's Labels definitely wanted me to get this book done. That was that part of my job, right? So,
yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Maybe one day I'll write
there
one.
There you
too.
go. Manifest it, girl. Manifest it. I think that's what they say.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Manifestation. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in manifestation. Positive thinking.
You said it now. You know what's going to happen to us, Svenja? I'm going to be like, listen to this podcast this time next year, and I'm going to be like, girl, how's your book going?
We will see.
There you go.
Anyway, so do you have one tip that you didn't share yet for if someone wants to has an idea, to start their own business, or has found something that is missing? One tip that you can share with the audience.
Okay, well, I've got 3,000 tips, but I'll try and narrow it down. I guess one, if we want to keep it like with the branding and that sort of thing, I think maybe what I would say is that I know in those early days, money's tight. Like you don't have the money to do a lot of things. But I do think it's important when you get to a certain stage, and hopefully a little bit earlier, I do feel like there is that you have to spend money to make money kind of thing. So, for instance, I know we all want to do it ourselves, and we're all also control freaks. Like, we think we could do it. But I've seen it so many times where somebody's like, I'm just going to do my own tax. And, it takes them 2 weeks and they do it wrong. Whereas if they spent the few $100 and got a tax person who spent 40 minutes and did it right for a couple $100, think about what you as the founder could have been doing in that 2 weeks. And that's growing your business. So, contractors are an entrepreneur's best friend. So, You make sure you're doing what you need to do and what only you can do. And then, you know what, contract somebody to write some HR policies, contract somebody to help you with your branding messages, contract somebody to an accountant, those sorts of things. There's a lot of, and even lawyers, like you can get these fractional CMOs, like this is a thing that you can do. And also really, knowing where your value is, making sure that you're not spending time on things that you don't need to spend time on, and really, really tapping into your network. And I think female entrepreneurs are very good at that. We always say, your network is your net worth, and making sure you're asking questions, you're picking brains, I always say no's are free, say, can I take you for a coffee, Julie? I can say no, but if you don't ask, then you're never having a coffee and picking my brain.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
do it. Just do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And not everybody has those talents. Like there's designers, there's accountants,
Exactly.
and you don't have to be everything.
That's right.
And it's okay.
And you're not everything.
That's
and you're
okay.
not
Yes,
everything.
no,
And if you think you are, put your ego at the door, because if you think you're good at everything, then your business is going to fail.
Exactly.
So,
No, absolutely agree. Well, Julie, thank you so much for joining me today. And so your perspective and all your insights were amazing. And I really loved our talk and that you shared your story with us. And you can find, anyone who's listening, you can find Mabel's Labels online at mabelslabels.com. And then also on Instagram, Mabel's Labels.
We're
and
everywhere.
On LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, we're everywhere. If you go to mabelslabels.com, you can check out all our products.
Perfect.
If you want to find out more about me, mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole. And then on, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the places, Svenja. We take your advice. We're visible.
Perfect. I approve.
Is it? Yeah. I approve of this message.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for
right.
having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to This Might Get Creative, a Behind the Brand podcast by Lyon Creatives. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves discovering local businesses and creative entrepreneurs. You can learn more about my work at lioncreatives.com or find me on Instagram, lion.creatives, and LinkedIn at Lyon Creatives. Until next time, keep showing up, keep creating, and keep getting seen.